are on their attacks. I think really just not a lot of coordination. It doesn't seem like the same shot is being called inside of Obey, and it's something that they're going to have to, I think, refine as this match continues.
Now, this isn't Border is not necessarily one of Obey's strongest maps. They have Oregon up next, which is traditionally one of their strongest maps. So they should be able to bounce back if this match goes sideways for them.
You know what really tells me though? It says that they're relying a lot on pure synergy instead of predetermined understanding of what they're trying to accomplish. And I guess that can work, especially on a map like you say, Border. Something that maybe they're not so comfortable with, maybe they haven't practiced it a whole lot, but it just seems like the default attack strategies are being forgotten here for Obey, stuff that everyone understands. I mean, it's Border, let's be honest.
I mean, you mentioned it at the very start of this broadcast. One thing that Obey doesn't lack is fragging potential. One thing that Obey doesn't lack is a fragger or two or four. But one thing that we've always seen from Obey is their team coordination, that cohesion that a lot of teams at this level play with is not absent, but it's just not as refined as other teams.
I think it just comes down to actually saying what you want to accomplish out loud, going into those dry runs and saying, or just hammering out a strat together as a team. I was like, here's what we want to do, here's how we want to do it, and let's get it done. I think that maybe that element is kind of missing right now. However, it also could be that we're just counting Obey out too early. We're only 2 rounds in now on the third.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Nora has found themselves on the upside on a typically defense-favored map, I think, in a current meta, especially depending on who gets banned.
I was just going to say, just as a side note, is that Bosco running the Elevate charm? And it sure indeed is.
Oh, surprise, surprise. I mean,
2 former members of Elevate on the team, in both Skies and Bosco, of course.
Makes a lot of sense.
All the way back from the Xbox days.
That was a long time ago.
It was ages ago, of course.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think because we saw Elevate this time last year in Germany at Gamescom, finishing 2nd overall, and now Elevate and the team that would succeeded, I guess, CLG, both gone now. So.
You can see that Shin has a angle pre-set up. My man is watching it, waiting for a potential free kill onto the Vigil, but the timing is not in the attacker's favor. Nearly half the round already gone, and Nora still has the control that they want, and Shin is going to be now free to play off this pre-made hole to Fountain.
And as long as they keep pressure on Shin, they can possibly get a very free kill off on Waka. Now, when Waka exited through that armory doorway, it did give his position away. He's going to be hit by those concussive blasts from the Zofia mine, and we said that we were a bit critical of their ability to possibly coordinate well. Well, here we go, and my man will get the first kill of the round onto Waka. Did you see that coordination, though? They tossed out the C4 to trigger the goo mine and then know that you need to blow the C4, unfortunately, for Waka. My man saw it, was able to take care of it before it blew up.
Yeah, actually, Waka was expecting a lot more aggression from the attackers, but my man played that absolutely perfect. So props to him for being patient and seizing the opportunity. Meanwhile, Waka a little too aggressive. Now, Obey has, for the first time, a distinct advantage in a round. They have gotten the control they want upstairs, above the site. And they're forcing these Nora players down. But they're running low on time. Only 35 seconds. And the push hasn't even finally begun.
No, and the Vigil has very wisely gotten back to site. You're going to hear some more goo mines go off as Bosco frags out onto Mariu. And JJ is just waiting. He's got an open hole above him, see if there's going to be a push from the Zofia, but no, another explosion will go off, and Obey is going to have to begin their execute in the dying moments of round number 3. They're in good position to be able to take a round off of Nora-Rengo, and there goes the Lion, but Crazy Papillon is there, and that is Diffuser down as well. JJ with 2 kills, and Bosco will get 1, but it's an even affair at the moment. Shin will see 1, but Bosco will outfrag, and Skies finishes it off, and I'm not exactly certain what was going on with Obey's strategy in those final moments of this round, but a little dipsy doodle around that barricade, and Skies will get the final kill. Obey is on the board.
So they managed to win the 3rd site, as I'm sure many of you know, and some of you might not. Of course, there is a forced rotation to a 3rd site. If you win the first 2 on defense, you got to go to that off site, and on Border, it's often customs. So Obey manages to make that work. But I have to agree with you, the strategy there from Obey was a little bit odd. They were focused very intently on taking top floor control, and then they shifted late in the round to a passport take, and that that actually kind of makes sense in a way. It's very distracting for Nora. They're going to anticipate maybe a clamp down on the B site and a push into storage. But it didn't come from Obey. They shifted all, and it was the right timing, I guess, but it was also still very late in the round. Obey won that with 3 seconds on the clock in a 2 versus 2. That should not have happened. So as much as we can, you know, give praise to Obey for a well-executed round compared to their previous rounds, we also have to point a finger at Nora and wonder to ourselves, what happened for 2 people to die within the span of 3 seconds?
Yeah, that came scarily close to what should have been a solid round for Obey, to them almost losing control in the dying moments.
Yeah. So the setup here into Archives, JJ going to be using his pistol very well. You can see he's opening up a lot of holes, and this is going to allow for C4 from below. You can see Waka on the pulse, so obviously going to be the main candidate for that. There is a little bit of an indestructible wall deep inside of B, or floor rather, deep inside of B, and that's why you open those floors next to the indestructible floor, so you can hook it over.
Also, just think it's worth noting that a big part of why we see Maestro running that Bailiff, even though the Keratos is such a strong Magnum, is because the constant Mira bans usually means that your secondary destructor on defense is now gone. Of course, Mira having that sidearm shotgun is so helpful to open up rotations and possibly, you know, give your team a broader line of sight than just Smoke can do on his own, as he's usually the one that's going to be doing that heavy lifting.
You know, a long time ago, that secondary shotgun was absolutely terrible. It didn't really accomplish anything. And then they made it kind of act like a buck skeleton key in a way, like a mini buck skeleton key where it does actual destruction, and then suddenly, you know, it opened up on the defensive side a lot more potential for site construction.
It still lags behind most of the default shotguns, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I mean, for people that don't recall, when Mira and Jackal first came out, it was inventive that there was a secondary shotgun because we'd never seen that before, but it was really not great.
So here we go. Obey, very assertive in this round. They've already managed to open up the armory wall, and it didn't look like Nora was contending anything. This is different than their previous strategy. Last time Nora, when they were in armory, held on to CCTV, and now they have gone for a pretty much full stack into the site. Even the pulse still in the top floor. Now, of course, he can drop whenever he needs to, but early on, he's going to be playing as an anchor, and it looks like he might have actually just went to drop just now.
He did.
Now, there you go. Waka all the way down in server. Benji going to be the flank hold for CCTV. You can see Obey setting up. They want to go for that defuse plant. With 5 members, they can even take a C4 from below. Adam opens it up with a kill into Crazy. It's looking good for Obey.
And as we can see from the way that Nora-Rengo stacked up their defenses, they're basically just trying to wait and go for a retake or fight as the execute happens. Waka from below will take out Skies. He draws out his pistol, expecting a possible push, but no. There will be a mark, but Adam in the doorway will go for the plant. He'll get shredded, but Shin gets traded out by Bosco, so they'll tie that one off 1-for-1. Maman will take out Waka. That was the pulse playing from below. Mariu will, of course, be forced to rotate now in towards Archives, and he'll play on metal detectors. A flash will go off. JJ gets a kill onto Benji, and for just a second, the Maestro's position will be revealed. But right now, Nora-Rengo could possibly go for the double peak. But no, Mariu will take some damage from Maman as he pushes up. JJ will try to engage with Bosco, working his way towards that armory wall, and 2 members of Obey now, the last 2 standing, will rotate over to the armory wall. Bosco will have to go for the plant. The lifeline will go off, but there's nobody there. JJ will miss his shots. A great hit from Maman, and it's going to leave it all on Mariu, who, Maman will finish that one out, and you can see some electricity from Obey. They needed these 2 rounds to stick with it, and they're now all tied up.
I have to say, major props to Maman over the last 2 rounds. Not only in the first victory from Obey did his patience pay off by getting control of that top floor for his team, but also in this round now, he managed to take a 2 versus 2 and put it distinctly in his team's favor by holding for that defuse plant. He is filling that fragger support kind of mixture role, and he's filling it well. The main thing for me to take away from him is, again, not take away, rather, I give to him and tribute to him, is his patience. My man is really just on fire in terms of calling his shots properly.
Maman has always been when he's on, he's on. And I don't want to necessarily say consistent, because we've seen a number of matches where Maman just doesn't look up to snuff that we have expected from him. But when Maman is on, he can I think he can cement himself among some of the best fraggers in all of the region. We're seeing that right
Absolutely
here.
Agree.
And it's a good day when he's able to frag out.
And because of his fragging out, Obey are toe-to-toe with Nora, 2-2. And despite that, it has been very close. I have to say, it's looked like both of the rounds Obey has managed to win, it has looked like Nora has the chance to come back. Meanwhile, all of the Nora victories were pretty one-sided.
Yeah, and I mean even the first victory that Nora-Rengo or the first round victory that Obey got was one that Nora-Rengo could have very easily taken.
It was a 2 versus 2 in the dying seconds of the round, and we've seen that 2 rounds in a row now. Waka going for a camera outside and looking for a potential spawn peek. You see Bosco on the IQ. Really, this is probably one of the best operator picks from Obey, and they're using IQ well. I like that they put Bosco on that role because he seems to understand it very well in depth. Waka playing Valkyrie consistently has managed to get some really great cameras like this one, but they are being dispatched thanks to the good utility usage from Obey.
Yeah, being hunted down from that IQ, and I think that's a very strong point for Obey, and that's a change for the better. We saw them go through the vast majority of the qualifiers for the Paris Major using IQ, like I said, as flank watch. First kill is going to go to Benji, though. He takes out Waka, who was playing very aggressively on the armory wall for quite a while there, but Waka's finished inside of breakaway.
That's another round for Waka playing way too aggro. You can see he's actually near cafeteria. That's not a safe position to play as a defensive operator, even if you have support from your teammates from afar. You could see these lines of sight that are open for the defense, trying to hold on to this south balcony doorway. Benji's looking to push in, but he's got to deal with this barbed wire. He's waiting patiently for his teammates to drone it out, give him the necessary information. Crazy has been called, and he will be forced to rotate back into sight. A little bit of a miscommunication there, and Crazy will take some damage for his troubles.
I really would love to know why the suppressor on the Alda. I genuinely am curious about that. But speaking of, it looks like Obey has taken firm control over CCTV. Now Maman working his way in as the Lion will freeze everybody in place, and that's Maman looking through the open wall in towards the site. Now Mariu, who's been playing this fountain quite well, and that's basically been his staple. We've seen him have some success there in previous rounds, but I think one of the biggest issues with the previous round was they didn't have Mariu rotate through CCTV like they needed, and it became too much of a linear, push from them.
You can see Mariu is, looking for the potential of a flank, but Obey has clamped down on said flank. Benji is the flank watch, and he's been really dedicated to that role. Meanwhile, the rest of Obey has set themselves up on the A wall. Shin is going to get 2 for himself. Adam and Maman in the span of one SMG-11 clip go down. The EE1D forcing the smoke to stand still, though, will allow Skies to get the grenade. Good coordination for Obey. Mariu holding on to metal detector. What a headshot. Skies follows up, though. And he's switched over to the hollow from the ACOG on Buck, and he's making it work for him. But 6 seconds left, and here come the peak from the defenders. But the diffuser gets planted regardless. Mario gets one, and he downs the other. What a round. Bosco unable to recover, and it will be a Nora defense.
So the Nora-Rengo will take the first split, 3-2.
Yeah.
With the way we're looking at operator bans right now, with an Echo and a Glaz, as well as a Ying and a Mira, is this what's your take on this? With these bans, should they be running up the defense? Should the attackers be able to eke out more victories? How's your take on this?
I gotta be honest. I'm looking at this. I'm seeing Glaz, Ying, Mira, Echo. They're all kind of even. These are all top tier operators that are gonna aid you and a lot when you get to use them, whether on attack or defense. Well, I can't really say this is gonna be one-sided. If there were like a thermite ban, I'll be screaming defense, 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 but there is no thermite ban. So I don't know. I'm looking at these bans. I'm not saying that they're going to influence the sides too much, nor the outcome. What I am looking at, what I really do take note on here is those 2 Obey wins were so very narrow, whereas every win that Nora's managing to get is a little bit more clearly defined. That last one was the least one-sided of all of them. Again, a 2v2, but this time Nora managed to make it work in their favor.
That last round in particular should have been an easy hold for Obey, but
it
it appeared that Skies got a wrong call. Because you saw that hesitation. He was holding the angle towards Sandwich. He was looking to make sure that if anybody bothered to push from small office, where Bosco was planting, that the Buck of Skies would have that completely covered. And that was a very advantageous spot for him to be. He had the reinforced panel right next to him.
Right.
But you could see he also kept flicking back and forth to CCTV. I'm not certain if there was a flank drone in there from Obey, but he was potentially fed wrong information because he kept looking to make sure that there was no flank, when in all reality, Nora-Rengo had both their bodies double stacked by the bomb trying to push towards Armory Wall.
I'm sure there had to have been a flank drone. I mean, Obey has been so attentive when going for an armory take from CCTV, with holding their flank. Every single time they've had Benchy just hard dedicated to that flank, and they only bring them off when they go for the actual site push.
Right.
So I can't imagine they don't have a drone watching it. Regardless, I agree with you. You know, a little bit of a miscommunication, misunderstanding in Obey, and because of that, they weren't able to get the round this time. Though, these strategies, again, they've been looking a lot similar for both sides. The defense strategies, the attack strategies. Obey has been executing onto Armory every single time. They've been going through CCTV into Armory. The only difference is one round, the first one that Nora managed to take, they were holding 75% in CCTV. So it was it looked different, but it was ultimately the same. But now, finally, we get to see the side swaps. You can see Obey are going to start with Armory, the typical site. Nora, on the other hand, instead of going for a CCTV push, will be going for an office take. I like that we're seeing a little bit of diversity here in the attack strategies.
Border has this very strange, ebb and flow to it, where we'll see teams focus for a couple weeks, a couple months. The flavor of the month, so to speak, will be, let's take Armory. And then it will just swing back towards, well, let's all just take Office. So it's nice to see this happening in the actual matchup itself. Though Obey is going to commit quite a lot to ensuring that nobody can get through, and some excellent bandit tricking there from a man who's not just fragging out, but also providing good utility for his team.
Like I said, he's kind of filling a bit of a support fragger role, the jack of all trades, if you will, and he's doing it very, very well. Camera dispatched by JJ, and that's just going to allow him a little bit of freedom here underneath the A wall to potentially get some bandit batteries. And it looks like actually Nora has shifted their attack strategy. Skies with a deagle kill onto the thermite. That was a really ill-advised push from Mariu. And because of that, not only will Nora be down a man, but also down one of their hard destructors, which is pretty huge, and much more powerful hard destructor on border.
Not to mention the fact that it did look like the ex-Kairos of Crazy Papillon was taken care of from the bandit tricking as well of Maman. So this could be a hard breacher there. As you can see, 0 ex-Kairos available.
Uh-oh.
That means that you have a hard breacher, and Hibana's really just good for fragging potential right now, which she excels at once her job is done, but her job hasn't quite been done and won't be done because Mary was gone.
Yeah, it's just that pure loss of utility that Nora's experiencing right now is going to hurt them a lot. I have to wonder what caused Mariu to go for that solo push in through the hallway. He must have thought there was an opportunity there, but you can't make those guesses in this level of play. Shin with a firebolt onto Crazy. Some miscommunication there will result in a further advance of Obey's objective, and making Nora's life just a little bit more difficult.
This round is, I don't want to call it that it's completely over, but this round is basically a wash for Nora-Rengo at this point, and it'll just keep adding up as now Skies gets a C4 kill onto Waka. JJ is in though. He's able to get a kill on a Benji before being tagged out by Bosco, playing by metal detectors. Shin all alone will have to plant the diffuser, and he'll get finished up. That's Obey taking the first round of the second half. My man finishing things off.
So Nora did win their half on defense. However, immediately Obey able to get that 3-3 equal round count. So well done to them, not allowing this to get out of hand. Major props. Nora, on the other hand, I have to question a couple things there. First of all, the initial focus on the B site was met by the Bandit of Maman, which forced the attackers to reevaluate the push, or it would if they didn't have a thermite. So Nora said, okay, our Hibana pellets have been used up and we can't push into offices even though we have the thermite. So let's instead go over to the A wall. But then thermite isn't going over the A wall, he's still pushing into offices. So a little bit of, I think, just a misunderstanding going on in Nora's ranks of what the actual objective is. And if they had just focused on one thing at a time, if they had stuck with their office push, I think it totally could have worked out for them. You know, drone out that player inside office, pinch him, get rid of him, and then thermite the wall. Because I believe that was even the Bandit, if I'm not mistaken, who got a little bit aggressive after successfully tricking the Xcaros.
Yeah, I think indisputably the sloppiest round that we've seen from Nora-Rengo thus far.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're not able to right that ship on attack, then as you can hear, obviously somebody very excited in the background there, probably the Vitality Liquid game.
That's a huge game.
Unless people are cheering that reinforcement from the man. possibly people very excited, but
yeah.
Anywho. That was, like I said, indisputably their sloppiest round, and it doesn't bode well for them if they can't be able to lock that in together. Now, when we saw them play against Nora-Rengo, or when we saw them play against Rogue, one of the biggest strengths of Nora-Rengo was that they would be very slow to start off most of their pushes. It would be a little bit unorthodox the way they did things. And then they would all just kind of collapse on Rogue and often overwhelm them. And I think it's easy to say that Nora-Rengo looked a lot better on defense as a whole than they did on attack in that series, and we've already seen that so far here, even though it's 3-3. So if I'm Obey, I'm feeling pretty confident after that round. Obviously, as you said, they could have possibly pinched the Nora-Rengo possibly could have pinched the Bandit playing inside of Archives, but it was a lack of coordination from Nora-Rengo that we haven't really seen from them so far this match.
I mean, I gotta say, I think both of these teams suffer from the same thing, and it's that, again, it's that coordination. But the easiest solution for both of them when on attack is just pick a goal. Something you want to achieve. Do you want to take the Archives? Do you want to take, you know, the A site armory? Do you want to push into ventilation? Do you want to, you try and take top control? Whatever the case may be, pick one and, you know, really stick it out. Focus everyone on that goal. And both teams have really struggled with that, I think, and Nora especially so in that first round. But they still have more rounds to prove that they can make it work. And we're about halfway through this one now, and just about nothing has happened. Mariu gonna start opening some things up. It looks like it might have been a fountain wall, as after he's taken control over offices, or a castle barricade perhaps from Adam. And he was just trying to push the defenders off of Archives so that the vertical control from defense isn't relevant when Nora goes for their Teller's push. So this has been a pretty standard take so far from Nora. It has been very slow, but standard all the same.
This is Obey's strategy, is to try to bleed out as much of this utility as possible, and now that Nora-Rengo has waded through all those various layers to get as much control over on the east side of the building as possible, they can actually start to work away at both the bathroom and then the main wall here, and that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to use 2 impact grenades, though. Excellent job. We've seen this a number of times. The impact will get tossed from above through that open hole that's just above the reinforcement, and it actually denies the ability to get through it. So Nora-Rengo lacking a thermite, not getting killed early on, but lacking the thermite, that's problematic for them.
A bit of an oddity to bring a Habana instead of a thermite on such a push. Mariu will get the first kill. Bosco, though, immediate refrac onto Crazy. Skies another one, and Waka goes down. Shindo able to respond, and my man eliminated. Now a 3v3, such an even round, and an even match in general. As we come down to the last 20 seconds, Nora pressured for time. Adam above, what a push to get 2. And that's going to leave just Mariu, who will be easily taken down by Bosco. Obey will get yet another defensive round.
And that was clean from Obey. That absolutely looked methodical and swift and punishing. You know, Adam was up top watching the hatch, looking for the rotate into bathroom, which is where Bosco had his sights trained to. Means that no matter what happened, there's no way you're getting out of that. And that's a classic fight for a trade at that point, because, you know, even if Bosco gets pinched, well, pinched actually is technically the wrong word. Let's say Bosco gets eliminated. You've still got Adam from above. You're basically trading off Bosco to get the final kill. And this is Obey waking up. They're looking good. They've looked better than they have at the start of the round, that's for sure. Maybe a bit of shakes in anticipation to get in here. But they're firing on all cylinders at the moment, and it's also a combination of Nora-Rengo just fading out. Their attacks have really looked a little lost.
And I think, yeah, we could really easily attribute it to the halves. The fact that Nora is now on attack instead of defense, and the fact that they seem to, again, struggle from the same thing Obey struggles with, which is that coordination or lack thereof. A misunderstanding of the actual goal. In this case, Nora had a clear goal in mind, and I like that they stuck to it, but they were so slow with it. It was just arduous. You know, it was a molasses take from the tellers in the archives. And after Nora had accomplished control over archives, they quickly refocused onto the tellers push, but it was, I think, too little too late at that point. And also those impacts. We've talked about it before. Like you mentioned, the impacts to deny hard breachers, if you can do that, is infinitely better than a bandit trick, because it's almost always a guaranteed result, and it's hard for your opponents to juggle around it. So I would have liked to see a Thermite and a Hibana, which is what we do have Nora bringing now, but now they're going on to customs, and harder breaching is less relevant here, however still relevant. I don't know. I mean, it's border. You're always going to want a Thermite. You're always going to want a Hibana.
Thermite is almost always a good choice on this map as well. Yeah. That's why we see the rate at which he's banned, because it can deprive teams that play Thermite of that utility and have to work around it. So I'm very surprised, number one, a bit taken aback by the fact he wasn't banned. But furthermore, that you knew that Obey couldn't go up to Armory because they won that site. So you know they're going to have to either go with Bathroom, they're going to have to go down to Customs, or they're going to have to go to Ventilation Workshop. How can you neglect to bring a Thermite in that composition? It puzzles me.
And they seem to have a clear understanding of the strategy they wanted from the get-go, too. It took them a long time to execute and roam clear, but they knew what they were trying to accomplish. However, that's all in the past. And now we have another defense from Obey. They're going to be going on to a top floor hold, very heavy roam, as you can see, but the actual site is downstairs over in the customs, thanks to Obey's success on Armory and Ventilation. What a shot!
Oh, goodbye!
Benji just absolutely treading through players right now, and he's able to hold on to that Armory roam for just a little bit longer.
This is them playing aggressively and trying to keep hold of top floor. I feel like we always say it, but of course, holding control of top floor border, no matter where the site is integral to defending it successfully. You've killed 90 seconds, though. You've also killed Waka. So that's pretty good for Obey. If I'm them, I'm pretty happy on the time management aspect. And then also, Obey falls off. They've still got Adam playing upstairs. They still have presence on that second floor. But you could see earlier on, the Valkyrie Maman had dropped down. Benji had just joined him a couple seconds ago. This is going to put Adam in a position to possibly capitalize on a late flank, as long as he doesn't get droned out by Mario.
I think you also have Bosco, who's trying to support as the smoke, and really that roam in CCTV is the main roam upstairs. Crazy, though, forcing Bosco to rotate and then catching him mid-rotation is going to leave Adam, the final defender, on the top floor. But 45 seconds. That's not a lot of time here for Nora. So even if they do manage to get Adam without losing any more members, it's going to be a hard fight when they go for the site. JJ, though, gets Benji, one of those anchors who fell off the top floor earlier. Adam, what a shot on Demariu, holding his angles and evening things out yet again, though. Here we go, Crazy with another catch of a rotation, this time onto Adam himself, the Jaeger. No more roaming upstairs. Maman, the final defender, as Shin gets skies, and it looks like Nora are going to win their first attack, but only 13 seconds to do it. Maman could just hold on for time. He gets JJ, goes for a second, and will barely miss the final bullet from that MPX. Crazy with a 3K, if I'm not mistaken, and a great round for Nora, giving them their first attack victory.
I don't know if that was Maman just thinking that he'd possibly gotten the kill or running out of bullets. It was hard to tell. But I mean, the MPX does so little damage.
You got to get the headshots.
Yeah, you just got to click on them. You just got to click the heads, you know? So I really like the way that Maman was playing that, though. Of course, he had the metal detectors there. He had the reinforcements on the wall from Customs into Passport, which is a strong position for him to play off of. He could have possibly rotated out through metal detectors and Customs and then tried to watch the push. He was even in a position where literally any gun except for the UMP or the MPX probably would have been able to secure that kill, and then you would have found yourself in the 1v1 circumstance in which the final person was in Passport office, or Customs office, my apologies. But this is something that I think is just also a nature with Customs. You know, Nora-Rengo put two together on Armory and Vents and then lost on Customs. The exact same thing is happening, but being mirrored right now for Obey. They were successful on Armory and Vents and then weren't able to pull it off on Customs either. As you mentioned, because of site rotation, now Obey has the opportunity to go back upstairs. They will go into Armory, which is the default site that we usually see here, and could afford them a possible victory, which would put them on a match point.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The odd round out was Nora's lack of success on their second Armory hold. So if Obey can get a successful Armory hold here, then they're the ones putting themselves at a distinct advantage. So we'll see if they're able to pull it off, or if this is going to be just a complete mirror from the first half with the opposite teams seeing success.
How interesting it is that we... we always typically do find these weird mirrored matchups between teams, but
well, I mean, these teams are really similar if you think about it, and especially again if you're looking at the way they've been playing.
Right.
It's just the attacks have seen not great coordination. The defenses are always favored because you don't have to coordinate as well with your team if you just have a you sit here situation. I mean, but anyway, I digress. Very similar teams.
This is not, I mean, we noted that Obey, this is not one of Obey's strongest maps, but the fact that they're able to keep it as close against Nora-Rengo on Nora-Rengo's map, that puts them in really good position. As I mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, Oregon is going to be the site of our second map. If needed, Bank will await us as a third, but Obey's got to feel pretty comfortable, especially since they've warmed up and gotten to a position where they're looking a lot stronger and more well-practiced. Capitalizing, important to note, capitalizing on the mistakes as well that are being made by Nora-Rengo, and there's honestly plenty of them. A frag grenade will go up, and that should ease the X-Kairos, and no bandit tricking available as Crazy Papillon will get that Armory wall. But look at this again, Nora-Rengo foregoing a thermite on an Armory take.
That's exactly what I was about to say, Parker. The lack of a thermite is just so puzzling for Nora. On border in general, it doesn't really matter where you're attacking. Thermite is one of your most integral operators, and Nora has just completely forgotten him. Several rounds now they've done this, and it is going to hurt them when they go for that Armory push. You can see Skies is going to rotate downstairs. Because he's doing this, he will allow himself a potential for a late C4 from below. That's the whole mentality. You put your Valkyrie down late, you have the information from the cameras, but Waka shuts that down outright with an SMG kill all the way from jail.
I would imagine there that this Valkyrie camera of Skies was giving intel that there could be a push in from detention, which is where Waka came from. Skies reacting to that call, but we were critical of Nora-Rengo, but despite the fact they don't have a thermite right now, that puck playing on Repel by Sandwich is able to get two before Bosco pops out and just destroys him. Mario just sprints in, and that's Benji gone. Bosco last man standing. Waka, who started things off, will also end things in this round with the Sledge pulling on his SMG-11. And just powering through, punching the reinforcement and getting a very clean kill that's so typical on land. This is also match point in favor of Nora-Rengo on their map.
But this is pretty much a complete mirror of the first half. But
it is so far.
Teams switched.
Obey needs to win this, and then there we go.
Yeah, and then we'll get the OT, I believe. Now, it's been a bit of a weird match so far. But what I just witnessed from Nora is the most concise and efficient Nora-Rengo I've ever seen. But it was also the sloppiest Obey I've ever seen.
Right.
A lot of those kills that Obey suffered from were actually just handed to Nora. For example, the player holding on to the main hallway, just peeking into those players, peeking from CCTV. It was a very distinctly easy round, I think, is what I want to say for Nora.
It really all comes down to JJ as well. I mean, how do you how do you have a Valkyrie on the board but allow a Buck to play on Sandwich uncontested, getting 2 kills for you? And then
how did he get 2 kills in the first place? I mean,
just literally it looked like he broke open the window, sprayed in, was able to get a kill probably on somebody playing Sandwich, and then also into small office. The only person that was playing in small office at that point afterwards was Bosco. Luckily, the ADS was there to catch his frag grenade, or else Bosco was also dead.
And then Bosco actually almost lost that fight. You saw that JJ went for a pre-fire onto the office doorway. But Bosco just narrowly managed to out-aim JJ in that situation. So it could have been a complete landslide. I mean, it was a complete landslide, but it could have been all over there and then, thanks to JJ's good positioning. You can see these cameras from Obey. They probably had those last round as well. That's why Skies was going for that push. the kill from the sledge downstairs, that
Waka.
the
Yeah.
Waka that shut down Skies when he was going for the rotation downstairs to potentially go for C4, was allowed because that camera is not inside of jail.
Right.
So you can see Skies knows if someone's pushing into customs, but he can't know if anyone's in the adjacent room. So there's just a line of sight that can cut him off there.
It definitely looked like the call was made. I mean, there's a very particular reason why that Valkyrie in mid-round is falling off to go down and push detention. As you rightly pointed out, usually they would be far more at home playing inside of ventilation/workshops area just to possibly get the C4 from below, but this could possibly be 2 or 3 rounds where Skies has been the victim of unfortunate calls and has cost him his life. Of course, dealing with Waka in a 1v1 is a frightening scenario for most people. Sky's one of the few players I think that's currently in this tournament that would realistically be able to win that more often than not, but still, losing the Valkyrie was an unfortunate scenario for themselves to find themselves in.
Now, Waka and Skies actually fill very similar roles, I want to say, because the way that both players have been playing, you know, they'll get caught out and killed in odd situations, and you look at them and you go, well, why are you making that play? But it comes back to the fact that, yeah, there's usually a call involved with each of the plays that those guys make because they're waiting for information from their team before they commit actions. So yeah, kind of an interesting. Oh, I mean, this is probably a hard wall, but you want to dream, right?
Yeah, that was almost all the way downtown right there, but. A very quiet game from Adam as well. Very intriguing to see what he's going to be able to put together on Oregon, but for the time being, yeah, quite quiet. You're seeing the Valkyrie right now of Skies being marked relentlessly. We'll hit the halfway point of what could be our final round as Nora-Rengo does sit on match point. Mariu working his way in and will be joined by JJ, and you can see this is something that Obey has done a number of rounds. They just fall right off and possibly even bait in a kill or two. That's Maman getting the opening salvo onto Shin, but Waka is able to meet Skies and will win yet again. That's the second time in a row that we will see this happen. And now Adam, who's mentioned as having a bit of a quiet game, he'll take out Waka, and that's the sledge gone.
That was great coordination between Maman and Adam. You saw Maman, he wasn't going for the kill when he was pre-firing the corner. He was just trying to bait, and it worked out great. Now, Nora does have control of Armory, but they don't have full top control. And when they go for their drop down, they're going to lose a lot of players from above because Maman is still in a potential flank position. So is Adam. However, still another kill there for JJ. So nice and even here, as we've seen it be so often with these teams. We're inches away from a potential Nora victory or an Obey retake.
And it looks like Nora's going to continue to widen that gap, but it'll be traded right back off as JJ will eliminate Maman, but Mariu gets one on Adam. It's all up to Bosco, and the diffuser will go down, but will Bosco stick it? Mariu above will find for a tense moment. Bosco with an impact will try to rotate into Fountain, and Ash versus a Legion, but Ash with about half HP. We'll just watch that diffuser. Trying to draw out the Legion. Ash will see it, and that's Mariu getting the kill, and Nora-Rengo putting that match away. There will be no mirror whatsoever. 6-4 on their map. Nora-Rengo getting a map victory, and we will go to Oregon. And what was a very close fight between these two teams that, for a while there, didn't really feel like it was going to be going the way it was. And then Obey taking advantage of Nora-Rengo's sloppiness, but Nora-Rengo finding it in the dying rounds of map number 1.
Yeah, that was a lot closer than I anticipated it being. That was a really difficult situation also for the Legion.